When we're talking about the network edge, we're talking about the access layer or leaf layer. It depends on whether we're deploying a spine and leaf or a three-tier architecture. And so we'll call it the edge just for the sake of simplicity, but the challenges remain the same between the two, which is how do we physically connect our edge devices to the edge of the network? Whether it's servers or storage arrays, we've got to worry about how we're cabling this, so we've got to think about it from a physical perspective as much as anything. So let's go ahead and dive in and see how we go about deploying these designs, especially into our larger data centers. The purpose of our data center networks is to connect to all of the different devices that exist inside the data center, whether those are servers or appliances or storage devices. But either way, these devices are going to get installed into racks, and we could have hundreds or at a minimum dozens of these racks inside of a data center. And so the question is, how are we going to deploy our networks into these racks? We've got a lot of different options here, and there's really two primary design principles that we typically deploy. We have the top of rack solution, and we have the end of row, otherwise known as middle of row in some situations. Top of rack says I'm going to deploy a network inside of each rack. So on a per rack basis, I'm going to deploy some kind of switching infrastructure in order to support my devices. This is fantastic from a cabling perspective, because if my switch is inside of the rack, then I don't have to go very far for my cable. The problem is it's not super great from a management perspective. I have to deploy potentially dozens or hundreds of these top of rack switches, and I have to manage every single one, and that creates a whole lot of headaches inside of my data center operations. Now, the end of row or middle of row option says, you know what, we're only going to deploy networking on a per row basis. And so this is typically going to include some kind of design around a chassis type of switch, because this is going to give us the port density that we need in order to connect all of the devices in a single row to a single pair of switches. And so this is really going to help us from a manageability perspective, because if I have 10 rows of 10 racks each, well, instead of deploying 100 or 200 switches, which is what top of rack would require, well, now I only need to deploy a pair per row, and so at that point I've only got 20 of these switches within this architecture. The problem here is cabling gets to be a nightmare, because I truly have to cable everything from all of the devices down to what might be the end of the row. This is why we call it end of row versus middle of row. More than likely, we're going to try to deploy this network in the middle of the row, and that way we're not pulling everything. For example, let's say that this is my row here. If my switches are down in this rack, I've got to pull everything all the way down. Whereas if my networking is here in the middle of the row, well, it's a lot more balanced from that perspective. The philosophy is the same, it just depends on where we're going to place the networking. Now, if we were to decide to go with top of rack design, we need to consider how exactly we're going to do that. And there are several things we need to consider. First of all, let's just talk about architecturally what this is going to look like. So here we've got a data center rack, and we have installed maybe some servers down here at the bottom, and that's usually where we install them. We put the switches up here at the top, so we've got a pair of switches here. But we think about the fact that our servers are installed such that, well, the ports are going to be here in the back of the rack. We bring the airflow in through the front of the server, and then we expel the air through the ports, but those ports also need to connect to our switches. And if I'm looking at the front of the rack here, I'm usually expecting to see the ports of the switches here in the front. Well, that's not how we want to deploy our data center switches. If we're doing this top of rack design where we've got our switches in here, well, then this is going to be the back of the switch. So maybe this is where our power cords come in, and then the ports are actually here on this side, on the back of the rack. Sometimes Cisco actually calls the port side of the switch the back. So when you're looking at a data sheet like this, and we see all of the ports like this, and it's laid out, and this is our data center switch, and Cisco will say, well, this is the back of the switch, and this is the front of the switch, which seems really backwards to us on the networking side. But the reason for that is because we want our ports to come out of the back of the servers and go up the rack and connect in. And as you might imagine, if the ports are over here in the front of the rack, then, well, the servers are going to have their connections come out and have to weave through and come in to the front, and that's just not efficient at all. And so this is why we want the ports to be in the back of the rack, or essentially wherever the appliance or the server ports exist. Now, we'll say that Cisco's designation of front and back of a switch, this isn't super consistent. Cisco for a while was very consistent, and they always called the ports the back side of the switch. But with some of the more recent switches that have come out, they've actually called this the front again. And so always be careful with the switches that we're choosing as much as anything, because we have to be careful. If we say front to back airflow, does that mean that we're going front to back like this? Or does that mean we're going front to back like this? Which is why we've actually, for the most part, stopped calling it front to back airflow, and Cisco likes to call it port side intake or port side egress, I suppose. So, basically, are we bringing the air into the ports, or are we expelling the air out of the ports? So that makes things a lot more clear. At that point, we don't care which is the front and back of the switch. But given how important airflow can be in a data center design, this is one area that we've got to be really careful when we're speccing out our switches. Now, the other thing we have to consider is the number of top-of-rack switches. Because as we see in this diagram here, I've got 2 switches here. But let's draw this out logically, because we understand that if I've got a pair of access switches, then I've got a server down here. Well, this server, for redundancy, needs to connect to both of these switches. Furthermore, sometimes these switches actually need to communicate with each other for the sake of forming a virtual port channel. And so it makes a lot of sense to install 2 of these switches into the same rack. That way all of the cabling stays here within the rack, up and down, and life is just a whole lot simpler that way. The problem with this is that it can drive the cost of the design up to have 2 switches per rack, and once again, the number of management points just continues to scale up. If I have 100 racks, I now have 200 switches rather than 100 switches. Now, the reality is that we have to have this as our logical topology. And so the other option that we could come up with is to say, all right, I'm going to have 2 side-by-side racks, and I'm going to deploy a switch into the top of each of these racks. So here's switch 1, here's switch 2. And then if I have a server down here, let's say this is just server 1, I'm going to have to connect up to this switch inside the rack, which keeps my cabling clean. But then I'm going to have to go all the way to maybe the cable trays at the top, or maybe it's below the floor. We certainly see both options in data centers. But either way, I have to go up, over, and down to connect to the switch over here. And likewise, if I have server 2 over here, I'm going to have a connection up to switch number 2 here, and then I'm going to have to come up and over to connect into switch 1 on the left. The downside to this clearly is that, hey, I've got a cabling problem. This is going to be a little bit more messy than keeping everything inside the racks, which is one of my goals of having a top-of-rack design, is the cabling is supposed to be nice and clean. However, this does bring the advantage of keeping my management points low, so that's good. And it can also reduce the amount of money that I'm spending, because at this point I could deploy a pair of 48 port switches rather than 224s in every rack. Now, I will say if the port count overall doesn't change because we're, again, deploying 96 ports one way or another way, well, ultimately the cost isn't going to decrease that much. However, there is a little bit of a cost savings to be had by deploying 2 larger switches rather than 4 smaller ones. Now, I will say that there is no right or wrong answer here. Whether we decide on 1 switch or 2 switches, we just have to decide which route we want to take within our data center space. And as long as we're intentional about it, and we've made the decision as best we can, well, then we're good to go. The problem is if we don't even really think about this and we just assume that we have to deploy 2 switches, and then we find out, we really would have rather have deployed 1, or vice versa. Now, we should also in all of this consider the idea of deploying fabric extenders, or FAQs. The fabric extender is supposed to give us the best of both worlds here. It's supposed to be a top-of-rack design that has very little management, and by the way, very little cost. And the reason for this is because a fabric extender plugs into a parent Nexus switch and is managed by the Nexus switch. So if that Nexus switch has a dozen or however many FAQs are hanging off of it, we don't actually increase the number of management points because we still have a single one here in this Nexus switch. FAQs also are going to be a whole lot cheaper than a lot of our edge switches. The primary downside to FAQs is really going to be the fact that we're adding a very small amount of latency into our switching infrastructure. And I will say, in my experience, this only matters in supercomputing and high-frequency trading types of environments, where latency is absolutely king. If we really care about every single nanosecond of latency, then FAQs isn't going to be an option. However, in the vast majority of our data centers, we're not that stringent about latency, and so building out a top-of-rack solution on FAQs, this is going to be absolutely something that we should consider. However, there is one other consideration in all of this, which would be ACI. If we're deploying Cisco's application-centric infrastructure, ACI prefers not to use FAQs. We don't actually gain nearly as much benefit out of a fabric extender in an ACI environment as we do with a traditional environment. And so this is something that we'll be talking about here in a little bit, but for ACI, we generally don't try to use fabric extenders. Now, one last consideration in all of this would be the storage area networking. Because if we have, for example, native fiber channel connectivity, then we have to consider this within our racks as well. Because our servers down here, let's say we have server 1 in our rack, we need to be able to connect up to an Ethernet switch, but we also have to be able to connect up to a fiber channel switch, or maybe we're deploying Cisco MDS switches. At this point, we need potentially to have this exact same conversation that we just had with the top of rack switch. Are we going to deploy one MDS switch, or are we going to deploy two MDS switches per rack? Because with native fiber channel, we have to have a connection to both fabrics at the same time. And so do we want to keep all the cabling inside the rack, or do we want to do this little deal over here where we're cross-connecting between the racks? But then we also have to consider, hey, are we deploying fiber channel over Ethernet? And if so, we've got some fabric extenders that can support FCOE, so that certainly keeps fabric extenders as an option. But we might end up deploying bigger, beefier switches to the edge just for the sake of supporting FCOE, which can increase the overall cost of our infrastructure in that case, which might just be another reason why we come back to say, you know what, maybe we should just stick with native fiber channel rather than FCOE. Furthermore, if we are deploying iSCSI isolation, well, then at that point, we can't actually even use the same switches, and we'd have to deploy dedicated switches potentially to all of our racks for the sake of iSCSI. Now, maybe we can aggregate our switches, maybe we can do some kind of end of row or middle of row design just for the sake of iSCSI, and so we sort of start to blend the two together for the two different architectures, but this is something we need to make sure that we have a conversation about, because as before, there's no right or wrong answer here, we just need to make sure we're intentional about it. So as we've seen here, top of rack and middle of row or end of row designs, both of them have upsides and downsides. There isn't a perfect solution here other than maybe if we want to consider deploying fabric extenders, but even that potentially has some downsides as well. So as I've said several times, it's really more about just being intentional with our decision rather than making the right one, because oftentimes there isn't a right or wrong answer. We just need to find what works best for us. So if we are deploying top of rack solutions, then we need to decide between 1 and 2 switches per rack. Because the goal of top of rack is to keep our cabling simple, we maybe still need to find the balance between that and the total overall cost of managing and deploying a solution that involves 2 switches per rack. Now lastly, if we are deploying storage area networking out to our servers, that could take the form of a lot of things. It could take the form of native fiber channel MDS switches or isolated iSCSI switches, or possibly even just trying to figure out what we're going to do with FCOE. Either way, let's make sure we're having that conversation, because if we do deploy dedicated switches, we still have to decide, okay, is it 1 or 2? And if we're deploying fiber channel over Ethernet, we need to make sure that our switches or our fabric extenders support it. I hope this has been informative for you. I'd like to thank you for viewing. Thanks for watching. Be sure to click here to subscribe to CBT Nuggets and click the notification bell to make sure that you're aware of every time we post new content. If you're interested in a career in IT or you want to brush up on your IT skills, then swing over to our website, and while you're there, be sure to sign up for a free trial.